You've put in the hours, you've got the results, you got the expertise, you got the knowledge, you got the case studies, you got the track record. But yet somebody with less than half the experience or someone who appears to just popped up out of nowhere is getting the speaking gigs, they're getting the clients, they're charging the money, they're growing their following, and they're getting what you think should be yours. Now, this isn't about luck, this isn't about connections, this is about packaging. This is about unwrapping the best gift package possible and showcasing to the world that you're not just knowledgeable, but that you're the expert they need to hire. And so today, what I'm going to walk you through here is what we call the invisible expert problem, okay? And why expertise alone doesn't just create the authority that converts, and what you actually can do to bridge that gap. Now, my name is Jake Kelfer. I'm a 4-time best-selling author, and I've used my books to build multiple businesses in the coaching, speaking, and the book publishing industry. And now I've primarily spent my time helping thought leaders and experts take their amazing expertise, package it into a book that builds their authority to sign more clients and make bigger impact. So let's break down this first piece here of the invisible expert problem. And what this really is something that we have to understand the difference between our expertise versus our perceived expertise. Now, you are probably somebody, if you're watching this, who is really talented, you're really knowledgeable, you've put in the work, and you are probably pretty good at what you do. The problem is, people don't know that you yet exist, or people don't know that you have the answer to their specific problems. And so here's the difference, right? The market, it doesn't pay for what you know. The market pays for what it can perceive you know. So in other words, two equally skilled people with the same knowledge, the same background, the same information can have completely different business outcomes. Why? Well, one person is perceived to be the thought leader, the expert, the authority, and the other person is just packaging themselves in a different way. And so what we want to do is we want to show you how do we package yourself the right way and what you can do about it, because the bad news is that if you're not being seen or you're not converting it the way you think you should based on your skill set, there's an opportunity to fix that. The good news is that I can show you exactly what might be worth your time if you're ready to start making more money and to start being the authority you know you really are. Now, I want to take it one step further here. And this is a conversation that I've had quite a few times being in the online industry for a while. And it's this. People always have this debate. Degrees, certification, years of experience. How much do those things really matter? Do they matter? And are they going to make the biggest difference? And you will hear people online that say degrees and certifications mean nothing. And you will hear people say degrees and certifications are everything. Well, here's the thing. The reality of this is all of these things point to you have the expertise. You are qualified. But none of them point to you have the expertise that is best for me. Or your expertise is shown in a way that will benefit me. And that's the gap that we need to solve here, is not just getting people to say, well, yes, you're qualified. It's them saying you're qualified and you're the one for me. And the way we do that is by creating the right authority assets. The way we do that is by putting into play things that showcase not only that you're an expert at what you do, but that other people can say, oh my gosh, they're an expert and I love the way that they communicate. I love the way that they do things. I love their methodology. I love their framework. I love their personality, their approach. They're the person for me. And that's the way that we're going to shift from the invisible expert to the fully booked expert. All right. And so let's break it down one more thing here. And this is how we do this. Okay. There's an asset, a single asset that makes your expertise undeniable. And that is a book. When you write a book, you change the perception of how people view you. If you and someone else both have degrees and you have a book and they don't have a book, who do you think is going to get the first opportunity from someone else? They're going to be like, oh, the person with the book. Who do you think, let's give another example. If you have a degree and someone else has a degree, but you also have a best-selling book, okay? Let's say you don't even have a degree. You just have a best-selling book on this particular topic, and you know your exact person that you want to help, and someone else just has a degree. Who's the person going to want to learn from? they're going to give the author the higher opportunity. And so a book is the ultimate packaging vehicle. This is how you create a better gift that people can unwrap and get to know what you got going on. Why? Well, a book does a few things. It combines your expertise. This is what you know, what you've learned, what you've studied, with your experience. Okay, this is what you've lived through, your stories, your case studies, your results, your testimonials, your transformation. This is the missing element. People don't just care that you know how to do it. They care that you know how to do it in a way that's relatable to them. And that's what a great nonfiction book does. And so when you do that, you're able to put all of your ideas, your expertise, and your experience into a book that then relates to the author. And this process helps clarify your thinking. It helps formulate your methodology. It creates the ultimate authority asset that you can have for your business. Now, here's what's really cool about this, that a lot of the experts that we've worked with, they can't see this until it happens. But when you write a book and you finish writing that book and you publish that book, the way people view you shifts. You go from, oh yeah, this person was knowledgeable, to wow, this person's unbelievable. This person's not just knowledgeable, but they've done the thing. They're inspiring. They're aspirational. People want to be like you. And so this allows you to then be seen differently, which allows you to have the internal feeling of more confidence, more validation, and the external feeling of more opportunities, more income, more speaking gigs, more podcast opportunities, more inbound outreach, more leads. And that is how you're able to go from the invisible expert to the fully booked expert. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, Jake, I'm a book could be good, but I just my expertise is too niche for a book. The more niche you are, more often than not, the better it is for you. Okay, I'll give you a very, very topical example here. Let's take 3 different people. You have somebody who talks about real estate. You have someone who wrote a book on real estate as a whole, and you have a person who wrote a book on short-term rentals and how to make your first 6 figures from that rental property. If somebody's looking to learn, and let's say all these people know the same information, but if somebody's looking to learn how to get their first rental property, short-term rental property, which person are they going to choose? They're going to choose the person who wrote the book on that. That's the difference. So if your expertise is really niche, great, lean into that. Oftentimes people think, oh, if I write a book, I need to sell millions and millions and millions of copies to make money. That's not true. If you're writing a book and you have something for sale on the back end, or you do coaching, consulting, speaking engagements, well, one book could lead to a $20,000 speech. One book could lead to a $40,000 mastermind client. One book could lead to a 5K course sale, all depending on what it is that you do on the back end of this. But it's so much more important to speak to the person you really want to help. And so if your expertise is really niche, that can be an amazing, amazing thing. The next thing here is you might be saying, okay, Jake, well, like I'm an expert on this. I'm really good at this, but I don't have a framework or anything like that yet. That's fine. When you write a book, you build out that framework. That's what your outline is. That's what your draft is. That's what your core chapters are. You actually create the process that you would teach somebody. This is how a lot of our authors go from like 25 years of experience to then writing a book that actually lays out what they've learned and what they've done for different companies, for themselves, for different businesses. And then that becomes relatable and repeatable so that the reader sees it, reads it, and is like, oh, I can do this. This makes it feel more doable. And so that's what creating a book does. It actually helps you build out your messaging, your framework, your methodology, your core process. And so look, I'll sum it all up with this. If you're watching this, right, you're knowledgeable on what you do. All right. And I don't think that that's up for debate. You're an expert in what it is that you do. You know more than the person you're trying to help. Maybe you're not the world's greatest expert, but you are definitely more knowledgeable than the person you want to help. Now, I learned this the hard way. I was 23 years old and I wrote a career development book. I was not the best in the world at career development, but to people 1, 2, 3, 4 years behind me, I was an expert to them. I knew more than they did. That was the person I was trying to help. And therefore, I was enough of an expert to write my first book and to really make a difference. Why? Because I had just gone through it. I could relate to them. I could get them the results they were looking for. I didn't have to be someone who had 30 years of experience. That was irrelevant to them getting the outcome. And that's why a book was so important. That's how I used my first book to get my book in required reading at college campuses. That's how I got my first several $1,000 paycheck from a speaking engagement. That's how I started traveling the country as a speaker, all because I wrote a book that I was able to help somebody because of the expertise I developed. Now, if you're still watching this, you are probably way more experienced and have way more expertise than I did when I wrote my first book. And so if I can do it, you can definitely do it. And the difference is people don't just need to know that you went to college, that you took a certification. Those things are great. But what they need to know is that you are the one to help them solve their problem. And if you can do that, then you not only establish yourself as the expert, but as the expert that people want and are talking about hiring. And that's the difference. That's the shift. And so if you really want to dig deeper into this, I'd love to chat. I wrote a book called Big Idea to Bestseller. And that is the step-by-step blueprint of how do you actually write a book that positions you as an authority and lands you paid opportunities. And so it's a step-by-step version. I want to give you a free copy. If you want to get a copy of that, just go to bigideatobestseller.com/free-book. You can go ahead and pick up a copy, just cover the shipping, and we'll send it directly to your doorstep. Now, if you're listening to this and you are tired of being the invisible expert and you really want to use a book to then be in-demand expert, then go to bigideatobestseller.com/call. Schedule a time for a demo, and we'll walk you through exactly what you can do on how to turn your expertise into a book that will actually convert for you. And so there you have it. This is how you go from the invisible expert, the person who's put in so much effort, so much time, you know you're really good at it, to being the person that actually gets booked, that actually gets hired, that actually gets the speaking engagements because people are talking about you and people believe that you're the person who can actually help them get the result that they want.